My name is Eric, and last year, my father told me something I'll never forget. Not because it was wise, or heartfelt, or even particularly clever, but because it cut through me like a rusted knife. All you do is take, he said. It came through a voicemail, an afterthought, a grenade left on my phone after what must have been a frustrating day for him. I remember I had just finished a late meeting with a potential investor. It was cold outside, raining lightly, and I had my coat half off when I saw the notification blinking. A missed call. Dad. And a voicemail. I played it on speaker as I walked into the apartment, expecting something about the grocery app he couldn't figure out, or maybe asking me to check on the heating at the old house again. Instead, his voice, sharp, tired, annoyed, hit me like a slap across the face. All you do is take. You've never given this family anything worth remembering. If you had any pride, you'd stop acting like we owe you something and just leave. I froze. For a moment, I genuinely thought I misheard it. I played it again. All you do is take. It wasn't even a scream. There was no rage in it. Just cold disappointment. Like he'd rehearsed it. Like he meant every syllable. I didn't call back. I didn't send a rebuttal. I didn't cry, though a part of me probably should have. I just stood there, looking out at the city through the rain-streaked window, realizing that something inside me, something small, but vital, had finally snapped. I was 29. I owned my own business. I paid for 3 different households and still got texts from my mother asking if I could VMO her for groceries. I'd covered my brother's overdue car payments, funded my sister's private college tuition, paid to repair my parents' leaking roof, their kitchen remodel, and their new heating system. I thought I was doing the right thing, building a legacy, showing up where it mattered. But to them, I was still the middle child. Still the invisible one. Still the background music to their spotlight. That night I packed a bag. No drama. No long emotional speeches. Just clothes, my laptop, and a pair of hiking boots I hadn't worn in years. I left a note for my assistant to pause all outgoing payments. No tuition, no utilities, no car notes. I didn't explain. I didn't know one. Then I disappeared. Not forever. Just enough. 3 days passed. Then a week. And silence. That was the part that hurt more than the voicemail, that no one even noticed I was gone. No calls. No texts. No. Hey, are you okay? Messages. It was like I had vanished, and the world just shrugged. Until the system began to crack. Mia, my sister, was the first to feel it. Late Friday night, nearly 2 weeks after I left, she called me. I let it go to voicemail. Hey Eric, weird thing. I just checked the school portal and my tuition payment didn't go through? Like, I know it's usually automatic, so, did something happen with the account? Let me know. Her voice was tight, like she was trying not to sound panicked. I could hear the forced casual tone, the kind you use when you're scared but don't want the other person to know you are. I didn't call her back. I didn't text back either. Instead, I sent a single message. Thought I never gave this family anything. That was it. No punctuation. No emotion. No follow-up. Within the hour, my phone blew up. 4 missed calls from Mom. 2 from Adam. 1 from an unknown number. A voicemail from my dad, this time different, shorter, angrier, more afraid. Eric, we need to talk. Whatever this little stunt is, it's not funny. Your sister's future is on the line. Still no apology. No ownership. Just more of the same, pressure, guilt, obligation. Like my worth was tied to how many checks I could write. That weekend I flew to Denver. I'd never been. It seemed far enough away to feel like escape, but close enough that I wouldn't need a passport. I rented a small Airbnb near the mountains, a place with big windows and no Wi-Fi. I turned off my email. Put my phone on silent. Slept. It was the best sleep I'd had in years. I woke up without stress clawing at my chest. I made breakfast. Went for long walks. Journaled. Took up sketching again. I let myself breathe without having to make space for anyone else's needs. And for the first time in my life, I realized something. Silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes it means peace. But back home, that silence was a vacuum. And vacuums collapse. The car I'd been paying off for Adam was repossessed. Mia's school sent her a withdrawal warning. My parents' mortgage check bounced. And suddenly, the foundation of their perfect little system started to crumble. Not because I attacked it, but because I wasn't there to hold it up anymore. They started reaching out to extended family. Crafted a story where I was unstable, ungrateful, cruel. But the thing about lies is they don't last long when the truth is documented, and my cousins? They knew. They'd seen it all over the years. One of them, Emma, messaged me. I always admired how patient you were. I'm glad you finally stopped being their safety net." That one hit hard. Because it wasn't said with anger. Just quiet understanding. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But sometimes, the path to peace begins with absence. With silence. With the simple, final act of saying, "You think I take too much? Fine. I'll give you nothing." And letting that be the last word. They called me selfish. Over and over again, in different ways and voices, cloaked in guilt or coated with rage. Mia's texts were the first, short, clipped, growing more frantic with each passing day. Adam followed with his signature brand of passive aggression, sprinkled with backhanded accusations. "I guess we know who the real adult is now." And my mom, well, she just defaulted to silence, the kind that said, "I'm not mad, just disappointed." Except this time it felt more like a courtroom stare than a mother's grief. But the one that made me laugh, actually laugh, alone in my Denver rental, with coffee still steaming in my hand, was a voice message from my dad. "This little vacation of yours," he said, his tone oozing disdain, "might feel good now, but real men don't run from family. They show up. They don't abandon their responsibilities." Responsibilities. As if I'd signed a contract the day I was born, promising to be their safety net forever. It had only been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since I hit pause on the machine that had chewed me up for years. 2 weeks since I decided to let them feel the weight of their own decisions for once. And already, they were collapsing under the smallest taste of their own reality. I spent my mornings walking to a small cafe near the Airbnb. It had mismatched furniture and a wall of books no one ever read. I'd take my notebook, order the same black coffee, and sit in the same spot near the window. At first, I wrote out my thoughts in fury. Pages filled with what I wanted to scream at them, all the moments they took without asking, the times they belittled me, the way they'd roll their eyes when I mentioned needing rest or space. But slowly my pen softened. I began writing about other things, things I hadn't thought about in years. The way the mountain light hit the glass in the morning. The smile of the barista who wore galaxy earrings. The smell of pine and cold air when I wandered into the woods. I was rediscovering something I hadn't realized I'd lost, myself. Back home, the unraveling escalated. Mia's financial aid office flagged her account as delinquent. She was dropped from 2 classes. Adam missed several shifts scrambling to figure out his car situation and ended up getting fired. My parents received notice from their bank that their next mortgage payment wouldn't process. I hadn't even touched their accounts. I'd simply let go. And that was enough to set the whole tower tumbling. They tried to fix it, of course. They turned to extended family, crafted a version of the story where I was the unstable one, the middle child meltdown narrative. But my cousins knew. They'd watched me bail the family out for years. Emma, my mom's niece, even reached out again. This time, she just said, "You okay?" I replied simply. For the first time in a long time, yeah. There was something sacred about the quiet I was living in. It didn't demand anything. It didn't drain me. It let me just be. I didn't have to brace for emotional manipulation, or sudden emergencies, or another. "Can you do me a quick favor?" Text that ended in a 4-figure wire transfer. I hiked alone. I cooked simple meals. I read an entire novel without stopping midway to fix someone else's chaos. One afternoon, I drove out to Boulder. The sky was bruised with storm clouds, but I wanted to see the view from the cliff trail I'd read about online. It took me 2 hours to reach the overlook. Wind pressed against my chest. The valley stretched out beneath me like a story still being written. And I laughed. A full, unfiltered laugh that echoed through the trees. It startled a nearby bird, but I didn't care. That laugh was a marker. A turning point. Because I realized in that moment I didn't miss them. Not the calls, not the obligation, not the carefully timed crises that always came right after payday. What I missed, what I had always been chasing, was the idea of family. But what I had was something else entirely. I returned to the Airbnb and found an email waiting. Subject line: "We need you to come home." No greeting. No warmth. Just a long, breathless wall of text. My mother had written it, but I could hear my father in every word. "I don't know what's gotten into you. Your father is furious. We've done so much for you. Family doesn't abandon family." I stared at it for a long time. My finger hovered over reply. I wanted to write, "You abandoned me the day you decided I was only valuable when I was useful." But I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the email to Daniel, my lawyer. I told him to begin transferring all pending education funds I had set aside for Mia to a new scholarship foundation. One that served first-generation college students. The kind of students who appreciated help. Who didn't take it for granted. I also asked him to check the title on the lake house. The one my parents used every summer. The one I had paid off in full under the promise it would be Our legacy. Daniel got back to me in less than a day. My name was still on the deed. So I made a decision. I booked a flight home. Not to argue. Not to explain. But to reclaim. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't warn them. I just arrived, rented a car, and drove straight to the lake house. It was exactly as I remembered it. Warm wood, glass windows, a wall of family photos that somehow didn't feature me. I walked through the rooms, each step tightening something in my chest. I had funded this place. I had given them this comfort. And still, I had become the villain in their story. I took out my phone and started snapping photos. The kitchen. The living room. The patio. I sent them all to Daniel. List it, I said. I left the house with the same quiet I'd entered. No door slam. No goodbye. Just closure. The next day, I wrote one final message in the family group chat. The same thread where they'd once shared birthday photos, inside jokes, grocery lists, and subtle jabs. You said I never gave this family anything. So I'm finally giving you what you've always acted like you wanted, distance. No more tuition. No more car payments. No more roof repairs. Sell your own memories. I'm out. Then I left the group chat. Blocked every number. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt weightless. They called me selfish. And maybe to them, I was. But standing on the edge of that mountain trail, my lungs filled with sharp, clean air, the silence of my phone confirming no one else owned my peace anymore, I knew the truth. I wasn't being selfish. I was finally being free. It started with a Reddit post. I was back in Denver, sitting on a park bench with a coffee in one hand and a book I wasn't reading in the other. My phone buzzed with a message from Emma, my cousin, my one neutral lifeline in the family storm. You should see this, she wrote. There was a link. Reddit. Throwaway account. A subreddit dedicated to student support and financial aid. I tapped. The title read, Family Emergency Ruined My College Future. Any help appreciated. The post was from you/someone0. But I knew the voice in every sentence. It was Mia. She described an unexplained financial withdrawal from her tuition fund, claiming her older brother had abandoned the family, was spiraling emotionally, and had cut all ties without reason. She wrote about feeling lost, how she was facing expulsion, and needed help just to stay in school. She posted pictures, none of me, but of her dorm, a blurry shot of her laptop, even a photo of her class schedule. And people believed her. They were donating over $6,000 in just 3 days. Emma's message followed. Figured you'd want to know before it blows up more. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the screen, my coffee long gone cold. My heart didn't race. I didn't get angry in the way I expected. What I felt instead was a slow, heavy ache. Even now, even after everything, she still didn't get it. She wasn't asking for help from strangers because she was desperate. She was rewriting the story. Again. Making herself the victim. Painting me as unstable, erratic, cruel. All to cover for the simple truth that she'd depended on me for years and never once said thank you. I could have ignored it. Let her con the internet the way she conned the family. But something in me, something tired of being silent, decided to speak. Not in anger. Not in a rage-fueled rant. Just facts. I pulled out my old hard drive. I had every tuition payment saved, every wire confirmation, every textbook reimbursement from the past 4 years. I organized them into an album. No names. No commentary. Just screenshots. Bank receipts. Tuition portals. Wire transfers. Dates. Dollar amounts. The total? $92,614.28. I uploaded the album to a private Imager link. Then, I returned to the Reddit thread. Scrolled to the comments. She had dozens of sympathy messages. People asking how they could help. Someone even offered to set up a GoFundMe for her. And right beneath all that I posted. Before you donate, maybe ask where the other $90,000 went. Some people forget who helped them when the help stops. That was all. No threats. No exposure. No direct call out. But Reddit isn't stupid. Within hours, the thread was on fire. People started questioning the story. Asking for clarification. Cross-checking usernames. Some recognized her from Instagram. Someone even posted a screenshot of Mia on vacation 6 months ago in Cancun, captioned, "Thank you, big bro," from her now private account. By the end of the night, her post was removed by moderators for suspicious fundraising activity. Comments turned against her. Her throwaway account was suspended. I didn't celebrate. There was no victory dance. Just a quiet confirmation, the truth always finds air. And yet, that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. Because 2 days later, Daniel, my lawyer, called me. "They sent you a letter," he said, his tone halfway between amused and appalled. "Certified mail. Looks official, but it's bizarre." I told him to read it. He chuckled once before beginning. "Dear Eric, we are formally requesting a meeting to discuss the breakdown of our family dynamic." I snorted. "A meeting?" He continued reading. "Given the emotional investment and shared familial experiences tied to the lake house property, we believe we are entitled to partial proceeds from the pending sale." That was the real reason. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted money. Emotional equity, they called it. As if all the years they spent ignoring me at holidays, treating me like a credit card with a pulse, somehow gave them legal claim. Daniel asked me calmly. "Want me to remind them emotional equity doesn't hold up in court?" I said. "Better. Send the contract." See, when I'd bought the lake house, I didn't just hand over money and hope for gratitude. I had Daniel draft a document, just in case. It included clear language stating the property was solely mine, that my father acknowledged the gift, and relinquished any future claims. He'd even signed it. We mailed them a copy. Silence. Then more silence. Until word got out that I was preparing to sell the main house too. Yes, that house, the one I helped renovate, funded repairs for, paid half the mortgage during lean years. It wasn't in my name, but Daniel had another file ready. Years ago, during one of my parents' worst financial spirals, I'd loaned them over $80,000 under a verbal agreement. Daniel had documented every deposit, every wire transfer. And now we filed a lien on the property, which meant I could legally force a sale. When they received the paperwork, all hell broke loose. My mom called Emma, sobbing. My dad left voicemails I didn't listen to. Mia messaged me again, this time not asking for money, but to just talk. I ignored them all. Then came the threats. "You'll regret this. This is betrayal. We'll tell everyone what you did." Emma called me one night, whispering into the phone like we were kids hiding from a storm. "They're planning to post on Facebook. Your dad's drafting some long thing about you being unstable. Mom's already talking to Aunt Renee. It's spreading." I sighed. "Let them. I have receipts." What I didn't say, what I didn't need to say, was that I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for closure. Because when people are determined to make you the villain, no amount of silence saves you. No amount of generosity erases the script they've already written. The only thing that ever tells the real story is proof. So I let the storm build. And while they scrambled, while they panicked and plotted and painted me in their tragic colors, I moved forward. The lake house sold first. A quiet transaction. Clean. Legal. Profitable. The buyers loved the water view. I never told them about the family memories inside. Didn't mention the Christmas Eve my father made me scrub the gutters while Mia opened her new iPhone. Didn't mention the photo wall missing my face. Then came the court order for the main house. Daniel warned me. "They'll fight it. Be prepared." They did. Filed delays. Claimed misunderstandings. Pleaded to judges. But the paper trail was too strong. Every dollar traced. Every text saved. Every promise broken now preserved in digital ink. 30 days. That's what they were given. 30 days to vacate the property I'd kept afloat for years. No exceptions. I didn't expect what came next. They didn't pack everything. They left behind boxes. Trash. Old furniture. Piles of junk and forgotten memories. Like they were trying to bury their shame under clutter. One of the movers found a box labeled, "Junk," in the attic. Inside it was a journal, mine. From high school. Covered in dust, but still intact. I flipped through it, standing in the empty living room. Page 1. Goals: get into college. Start a company. Buy a house. Take care of my family. Funny how every goal had come true. And yet none of them looked the way I imagined. I donated what I could. Threw out the rest. Emma helped close out the estate. She was the only one who didn't choose sides. The only one who showed up without asking for anything. "You did the right thing," she whispered, hugging me goodbye. "Even if it doesn't feel like it yet." And she was right. Because it didn't feel like triumph. There was no soundtrack. No slow-motion applause. Just quiet. The kind of quiet you don't notice until it wraps around you like a warm blanket. Soft. Unfamiliar. Safe. A few weeks later I moved. New city. Smaller place. No family nearby. No extra keys handed out. No emergency fund draining in the background. I was just me. And they faded. Emails slowed. Calls dried up. Even their smear campaign fizzled when people started asking questions they couldn't answer. I didn't chase apologies. Didn't demand closure. Because I already had it. It lived in every receipt I'd saved. Every truth I'd quietly posted. And most of all, in the silence that followed once the noise of their lies finally stopped echoing. The morning of the auction was gray and brittle. The kind of morning that smelled like old paper and cold cement, quiet, unnerving. I parked across the street from the house I had once called home, staring at the weather-worn siding and the porch where I used to sit with a book while everyone else shouted over Sunday football. Now, a small white sign staked in the lawn read, "Notice of foreclosure. Auction today. No trespassing." A truck had pulled up earlier. Daniel was already inside, speaking to the auction rep. I watched them from my car for a long minute. Part of me considered turning back. Not because I regretted what was happening, but because standing here, witnessing it, felt heavier than I expected. But some endings deserve an audience. So I got out. Hands in my coat pockets. Shoulders steady. I crossed the street slowly, almost like I was afraid I'd wake the past if I stepped too loud. The door was ajar. Daniel spotted me and gave a soft nod. "You don't have to stay for this," he said, his voice low. "I want to," I replied. "I need to." I walked through the house like I was retracing the outline of a ghost. The living room still had the same dent in the hardwood from when Adam threw a baseball indoors. The hallway had the faded outline of the height chart they stopped updating when I was 13. The kitchen smelled faintly of cinnamon and bleach, like someone tried to scrub memories off the walls. I stood in front of the cabinet I'd fixed 3 years ago after Mom snapped the hinge. She never thanked me. Said, "It's about time." I remembered painting that wall during their anniversary weekend while they were in Tahoe, using the color Mom picked out but forgot to buy. I'd covered the cost. Again. I turned toward the countertop. A picture frame sat there, one from Christmas 2 years ago. Everyone in matching pajamas. Laughing. Even the dog had a bow tie. They'd cropped me out of the Instagram version. I picked it up, stared at it a moment, then turned it face down. Outside, cars started arriving. A few prospective buyers. Some curious neighbors. Then them. They pulled up in Dad's old Chevy. All of them packed in like it was a twisted family road trip. Mia got out first. Her face was pale, jaw clenched. She wore oversized sunglasses, the kind meant to hide either grief or shame. Adam stepped out next, scowling. Always the enforcer, the big brother act he wore like armor. Then came my parents. Mom looked older than the last time I saw her. Worn down in a way that expensive creams and curated Facebook posts couldn't hide. Dad still walked like he owned the ground under him. He spotted me instantly. "Eric," he called, his voice low but tight, like he was trying to keep his rage polite. "We need to talk. Now." I didn't move. He walked up, Adam a step behind. "You're really doing this?" he asked. "You're going to humiliate your own family? Over what? Some perceived slight?" I looked him in the eyes. "It's not a slight," I said calm. "It's a pattern. And it ends today. You ungrateful little," he began. I raised a hand. "Don't. Just don't." Mia walked up beside them. Her voice cracked. "I'm going to lose my scholarship because of this. I already had to drop 2 classes. Why are you doing this to us?" I turned to her. "I paid for your first 3 years. Every tuition bill. Every textbook. You never said thank you. Not once. And when I stopped paying, you told strangers I was unstable. You lied. For money." She started to respond, but her voice caught. Mom finally spoke. "We're family, Eric. Families don't do this to each other." I let out a quiet breath. "No. Families don't take like this. You took everything. My time. My money. My trust. And when I stopped giving, you called me selfish." The auctioneer's voice rang out. "We'll begin in 5 minutes." Dad looked around, suddenly unsure. "You can't do this," he said. "You wouldn't even have this house if it weren't for us." "You're right," I replied. "So I'm taking it back." They didn't follow me when I turned to walk away. They just stood there, planted in the driveway, unable to move. Watching the foundation they'd taken for granted crumble around them. The house sold that day to a retired couple. They paid in full. They smiled as I handed Daniel the keys. They talked about renovating the backyard for their grandchildren. I nodded, wished them luck, and left without looking back. 3 weeks later, the movers arrived. My parents tried to stall, even filed an emergency motion, but the judge had already signed off. 30 days to vacate. No exceptions. They didn't even pack properly. Just grabbed what they could and left the rest in piles. Years of clutter, trophies, broken appliances, boxes marked Eric's room, filled with things they'd once told me they'd thrown out. A mover found a notebook. My old journal from high school. I flipped through it while leaning against the kitchen counter. Page after page of goals. Get into college. Start my own business. Buy a house. Take care of my family. I stared at that last one a long time. Funny how every dream came true, and yet none of them looked the way I imagined. Emma came to help me finish closing the estate. She was the only one who hadn't picked a side. The only one who saw the whole picture and didn't flinch. She hugged me tightly before she left. You did the right thing, she said. Even if it doesn't feel like it yet. And she was right. It didn't feel like justice. It didn't feel like a victory parade. It felt hollow. Sharp. Like removing something infected and being left with the space it once filled. But that space slowly healed. I moved to a new city. Bought a loft. No guest bedrooms. No spare keys. I kept the walls bare for weeks. Let myself live in the quiet. Every bill I paid was mine. Every item I bought stayed mine. I stopped bracing for last-minute emergencies. Stopped checking my phone every hour. The calls from them slowed. Then stopped. No more voicemails. No more email forwards from family friends. It was like they had finally realized the faucet was off, and they were thirsty in a desert of their own making. I didn't hate them. I didn't wish them suffering. I simply disconnected. Like a wire pulled from a socket. One night, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment. Tea in hand. Watching the lights blink across the city skyline. I thought about that last Thanksgiving. The toast Adam made. The way they all smiled like a commercial, completely unaware that the glue holding them together was me, and that it was already cracking. They didn't change overnight. But I did. I stopped bending myself backward to fit into a mold they never cared to see clearly. I stopped asking for approval they never intended to give. I stopped treating obligation like love. Months later, I got an email from Mia. Subject: I don't expect a reply. It read, I just wanted to say, I get it now. And I'm sorry. I know it's late. And it probably doesn't change anything. But I wanted you to know. You were right. I read it twice. Then once more. And then I archived it. Not out of spite. But because I no longer needed her apology to move forward. I already had everything I needed: peace, boundaries, and most of all, freedom. If there's one thing I've learned from everything that happened, it's this: love and obligation are not the same thing. It's easy to confuse the two, especially when you grow up in a family where showing up means picking up the pieces others drop without thanks, where responsibility is quietly assigned to the one who never complains, and where giving becomes your identity before you even realize you've lost yourself. For most of my life, I believed that family was a promise. An unspoken bond that meant we'd hold each other up, not weigh each other down. But what no one tells you is that not all families operate from love. Some operate from need. Some see your kindness as currency. And when that currency runs out, they call you names like selfish, ungrateful, or broken. But boundaries are not betrayals. Stepping away from people who drain you doesn't make you cruel. It makes you conscious. You don't owe people access to your peace just because they share your blood. You don't have to keep lighting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Especially when those same people never once asked how cold you were becoming inside. When I walked away, I didn't do it to punish anyone. I did it to survive. I had spent years tying my worth to how much I could provide, to how quickly I could fix, how often I could say yes, how deeply I could sacrifice without complaint. And for a while, I wore that role like armor. Until I realized that armor was dragging me to the bottom of a sea I never chose to swim in. Silence taught me something that chaos never could. When you stop reacting, people reveal who they really are. When the money stopped, when the help disappeared, when I became unavailable, their masks dropped. There were no questions about my well-being. No efforts to understand. Only demands. Only blame. And in that painful clarity, I learned that love isn't proven through how much you tolerate. It's found in reciprocity, in effort, respect, and acknowledgement. I also learned that truth doesn't always need to be shouted. Sometimes the quietest actions make the loudest echoes. I never wrote a Facebook post. I never aired my grievances in public. I simply showed proof. I posted facts. And the world saw. Sometimes, dignity is in the documentation. People often say closure comes from others, from apologies, from explanations, from reconciliation. But the real closure is internal. It's when you stop chasing answers from people who were never listening in the first place. It's when you can sit with the silence and feel peace instead of resentment. Forgiveness, I've come to realize, isn't always about letting others off the hook. Sometimes it's about letting yourself off the hook for carrying so much for so long. For believing that if you just gave a little more, they'd finally see you. Sometimes it's about forgiving yourself, for staying too long, for bending too much, for forgetting that your needs matter too. I used to think that walking away from family made me a failure. Now I know it made me free. I no longer live in a world where my worth is measured in transactions. I no longer seek validation from people who only saw me when they needed something. I no longer keep seats at my table for those who never once asked if I was hungry. And that, more than anything, is the lesson I carry forward. You are allowed to grow beyond the limits others placed on you. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to rewrite your story. Sometimes the people who claim you've changed are just angry that they can no longer control you. But change is not betrayal. Growth is not abandonment. It's liberation. And the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to choose peace, even if it costs you people who never truly valued you. Because in the end, peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of self.